girlfriends to come up and say hello. Like, it was beyond absurd having I was deliberately speaking more Ocker, saying things like dingo and just I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, it was awesome. Coming back sucks because then we just become another schmo.
Yeah, I remember I went to a cafe when I got back and this cute waitress, and I'm like, "G'day," and she just blanked me. And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. The accent means nothing
anymore."
Well, I mean, it was good while it lasted. Is that anything to do with the fact that you came back a few times? You're just like, oh, we got to go back to where we're a novelty item, where we don't even have to be presentable. We can have been living together in a Toyota Camry for 6 months at a time, and women are literally falling all over us. I mean, there's got to be the built-in advantage of that, and for that, we salute you. But I think the thing that impressed me the most about it was really your take on America. Had you guys spent much time here before shooting the series?
We'd both been there. I think I'd been there a little bit more than. I don't think Nick hadn't been to America at all. Parv had been there been through there.
Through, but never really anything substantial.
Yeah, I'd done like the first time I ever went overseas was sort of a 6-month traveling around the States. Actually, a bit more a lot tamer than what happened with Unplanned America. But had a friend studying in North Carolina and just visited him and travelled around. So I've always had a bit of a I guess what word am I searching for? I don't know, an interest in America and just sort of being keen to, I guess it's just the accent, let's be honest. I just want to go somewhere where my accent is going to help me.
Well, it's very, I mean, your overall take on America, just because things are very different. And I noticed during my time where I was growing up, where I was not in America, America being what it is, like a huge country that really can't America can't move a muscle. The American government can't move a muscle. The American people can't move a muscle without there being some sort of trickle-down effect on the rest of the world, it seems. So, I mean, for many reasons, some completely and absolutely correct and some a little bit more far-fetched, America tends to be the punching bag for the rest of the world. And I really like that you went there and you kind of like didn't beat up on America with a lot of the cliches. What's your overall impression?
We love America. I mean, I personally, it's just sort of it's such a diverse place. You know, every state, I guess my impression maybe of Australia is you've kind of got city, country, and beach. You kind of three lifestyles that kind of exist. Whereas in America, every state line, it seems to be different. Every city seems to be different. It kind of encourages the individual a fair bit. And yeah, in terms of going there and doing the kind of, I don't know, I feel like the using America as a punching bag, yeah, it is, as you said, it's a bit cliche. It kind of seems a bit obvious to do that. It's not really something that, was an interest of us.
And I also feel like America often gets a bad rap maybe just for its politicians and its politics. But then, like for me, I hadn't spent much time there and I was sort of judging the whole place on its sometimes politics that I didn't agree with. But then we went there and we just found this like country full of really big-hearted people and people that really we had a great time, as you can see in the series, and it really changed my whole outlook. And you can't judge a whole place just on its politicians, really.
Yeah, and I think this is honestly a great reason for people to watch the series because people are so dug in and entrenched, especially, the closer we get to the election for a new president that we've got coming up here in 2016. People get deeper and deeper dug in about their respective positions with regard to how they think America is, what would be the right thing for America, and people are very, very divided in this country, more so than I remember them ever being before I moved here. And the thing that I think struck me about the documentary series you guys made was the fact that you do seem to sort of like find kindness in all of them, all the people you meet, and positivity in all the people you meet, and I think the outsider's perspective, the bigger picture that is seen by someone who has just arrived, is that here's a bunch of people that are, generally speaking, I believe Americans to be, generally speaking, good-hearted, kind, benevolent people, and a lot of them have very different ideas about the best way to get there, and they tend to get mired in that. But I think the thing to bear in mind is that they all sort of want the same things, and your documentary is an excellent piece of perspective from that respect.
Yeah, I think, I 100% agree. I mean, I think, most people are inherently good. Obviously, there's people have completely, as you said, different ways of going about necessarily achieving their happiness or whatever. But generally, when it boils down to it, people just want to sort of look out for each other and look out for their family. And I guess it's kind of, you get caught up sometimes too much on the sort of what divides you as opposed to the things that really, the commonalities which we share a lot more of, really, which even we're from another country, but we related and understood so much of what we encountered in America in vastly different circumstances.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We all kind of have the same or a very similar picture of what we all want. We want, to be able to be educated. We want to be able to have a home. We want to be able to pay our bills. We want to be able to provide for our kids if we have any. And while we have radically different ideas about the best way to get there, it's incredibly important to bear in mind that we all have that same final destination in mind. And I think your series really helps illustrate that. We're going to do another segment, but super quick. What was the most frightening moment that you had on the road? Do you suppose?
Most frightening moment.
Maybe rolling into the gathering?
I think that we're maybe most trepidatious going to the gathering of the Juggalos, because we'd heard a bit about Juggalos and we were just sort of, we didn't know what to expect. And again, that was preconception, preconceived notion.
From the outside looking in, it can be pretty scary, but as you saw, it was
it was awesome.
Different. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well,
we didn't really get punt. A fight didn't really happen, but I don't know. That was the most trepidatious moment, probably. Yeah. There was a couple of things with Phoenix Jones and Seattle.
We'll get into the details of the scarier parts of the gathering of the Juggalos in just a second. Thank you so much, Gonzo and Parv, for hanging out. Unplanned America is the show. Check it out on Netflix. You won't be sorry you did.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Time won't stop, but I'll stop time to run away and make you mine. I'll take you where you wanna be. I'll make you love me so you'll see.
Go ahead, favorite the show and enjoy AD on the go. iHeartRadio presents AD.
If you are just joining us, we're lucky enough to be on the line via Skype to Australia with Gonzo and Parv from a rather excellent Netflix series called Unplanned America. Basically, 3 former MTV producers quit their jobs, lived in people's yards. One of them has now upgraded to living in a pub to save all their pennies, to travel across America and shoot what is an incredible account of America, specifically some of the subcultures in America, like the gathering of the Juggalos. Yep. And that was the scariest you were. That was the most trepidatious you were going into something. You were just like, are we going to get whooped out of existence?
Well, we'd heard a bit about the, because the FBI's classified them as a gang, and we kind of heard little bits and pieces here and there, and which is probably not that advisable. Just little Google searches of dangerous juggler. I think we kind of freaked ourselves out trying to look at what was going on there, but and it's just down in the very bottom. It was the very bottom of Illinois, kind of middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
No one really knew where we were.
Sort of visually, when you see pictures of people dressed like clowns holding axes and stuff, it's like your worst nightmare come true, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Scary clowns holding axes is a little bit weird. And I noticed a lot of them actually appeared to have axes. Were there a lot of weapons around there that you're just like, yeah, they're all methed out. They're dressed as scary clowns and they're carrying actual axes?
That's like when we rolled in there, we were like, oh, okay, this is actually...
Well, a girl dropped her flip knife on the ground. And there's some people with hatchets walking around, and we're just like, this isn't like the festivals we have back in Australia. It's usually a weapons check.
Right, yeah. This is no big day out.
No, exactly. Well, big day out's gone broke. Maybe they need more hatchets.
Yeah.
Right, If they just invited people to dress as scary clowns, perhaps they'd still be in business. I really like the segment where you went and hung out with Kanye. You went and hung out with Kanye West's old manager, John Monopoly. How did that come about? That was the incredible thing about it too. You seem to find people, hook up with them, and do your thing. Just the level of resourcefulness when it came to, we're here in Chicago, let's dig up Kanye West's old cronies and hang out with them and shoot a segment. Usually, sort of people that come from broadcasting companies where there's a bunch of different folks to go through, that can take so long. You guys just did it all on the fly. How do you go about chasing down Kanye West's manager?
Well, that one was pretty lucky, actually. I'll shout out to my mate Brian Johnston, who's an American guy who he went to my university out here in Australia, did like exchange for a semester, and he kind of he works in the music biz and is sort of involved in sort of hip hop sort of stuff. So we just said to him, is there anything interesting going on that we should get involved with? And he pointed us to the drill music stuff in Chicago and gave us a number to try and call up. And that was John Monopoly. And it's quite weird talking to Kanye's old manager on the phone, trying to explain what the show is and what we want to do. But I don't know, I guess people are just happy to tell their story and have us along. Like, we were quite surprised at that access we got. I mean, with the porn set that we went to, was shocking that we were allowed to go on that. Like, we couldn't quite believe, having worked in the industry back in Australia and having to go through so many different PR, all that stuff that you guys spoke about earlier, to do it this way was quite surprising to us.
Yeah, we figured most people would just tell us to rack off.
Yeah.
And they were, I would hazard a guess you had the exotic accents to fall back on. I mean, and also, I mean, the thing is, it didn't exist yet. The first time you went out to shoot the show, you couldn't say like, here it is. It's been on in Australia for 6 months, and we're gonna come do it. You like really on a wing and a prayer allowed people. You got tremendous amounts of access, specifically during the shooting of Austin Powers XXX. There was. How did that come about, and what did you learn from that?
Man. Like, Gonzo just sent an email to Vivid.
This was the funny thing. The funny thing was that originally when we hit them up, the show was going to be called, because originally it was just Parv and I before we'd left Australia, and it was going to be called 2 Men and a Camera. So my email was Gonzo at 2 Men and a Camera, which sounds pretty pornographic in and of itself.
It does sound porny, yeah.
And then I'm hitting up Vivid and I'm like, I assure you we're not a porn company. We'd just like to come by and check out one of his shoots. And they actually said, at first they said, oh, no, we don't let any people onto our sets. But then they must have mentioned it to the director, and he got back to them and said, look, I'm happy for him to come along. And it just happened. It was an email.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
It was amazing.
I don't know how we couldn't have made this show 10 years ago. Without the sort of technology, just sort of been able to look people up and shoot an email and
pester them.
The question that will be on everyone's mind when they watch the Inhibition and Exhibition episode of the show, where you do go to an LA porn shoot where they're shooting Austin Powers XXX, is any? And I'm not asking in sort of like a skeevy, pervy way what happened when the cameras weren't rolling, but I would imagine the level of openness and access that they gave you, not literally, sort of more metaphorically, to what the idea of what it's like to shoot porn. Did you find out, like, did you have any like, oh, holy crap moments when the camera stopped running?
I think like the weird thing for me was that just I was expecting it to be all like weird and seedy and everyone be a bit like, I don't know, like you have these preconceptions of people going into it because they're a bit damaged or something, but it was like being in an office place, like in the kind of vibe.
There's people just sitting around eating Cheetos, watching like fantasy films, reading books, and then they're like, all right, you're up. And that, I mean, it was quite shocking to watch. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was kind of, it's not every day that you're watching hardcore scenes right in front of your eyes. But it was definitely, there was a lot more downtime than I expected. It was like being on a normal set to a lot of degree. But that was probably the most surprising part. We, as Parv said, expected a sleazy, smutty, just constant sex scene going on, but unfortunately that was
sadly it didn't live up to your porn expectations. Ali Hayes was on it, right?
Ali Hayes, Liza Del Sierra, Natasha Nice, Nina Hartley,
all the big
Johnny
names,
Pistol,
all the big names in porn,
all my best friends.
I'm so fascinated by this. I forget, do we have one more segment after this? I know we got about a minute left.
We could, yeah.
We could?
Yeah.
All right, cool. No, only because I remember Ali Hayes was on this show once, and she said it's very difficult to be a male porn dude. It takes more than the obvious physical attributes, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. It's the ability to, like, hang out doing nothing, sort of like eating lunch with your wedding tackle out, getting sort of like on a cream of wheat or whatever the hell it is on it, and then be called up to perform and instantly be ready to go. I mean, there's injections and stuff, but it's more of a... It's more of a mental process than you would imagine. It's interesting that you bring that up. Thank you for hanging out.
I'm making money now, but you know the fact is there's nothing really left after I go and pay my taxes. I couldn't believe it when I finally clicked. The the truth about how deep I'm really getting. Uncle Sam bends me over with no lube every April, and I'm proud to be an American.